Let's talk about domestic violence and child abuse. According to the CDC and the 2010 National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, 43.8% of lesbian women, 61.1% of bisexual women, 35% of heterosexual women, 26% of gay men, 37.3% of bisexual men, 29% of heterosexual men, and 53% of trans and non-binary folks say they have been raped or physically assaulted or stalked by a partner in their lifetime. What does abuse look like?
The cycle of abuse usually starts with the abuse of children. This can look like intimidation, instilling fear through looks, actions, gestures, property destruction, using their size to intimidate children, yelling, being violent towards the other parent or pets, using adult privileges such as treating children as servants, punishing, bossing, or always winning, denying input in visitation and custody decisions, or interrupting. It can also look like threats, threatening abandonment or suicide, physical harm, confinement, or harm to loved ones. It also includes economic abuse or withholding basic needs, using money to control, squandering family money, withholding child support, using children as economic bargaining chips. It can also look like emotional abuse, put-downs, name-calling, using children as confidants, using children to get or give information to the other parent, being inconsistent, or shaming children. It can look like isolation, controlling access to peers, adults, siblings, other parents, or grandparents. It can also look like using the institutions of God, courts, police, school, juvenile detention, foster homes, relatives, or psych wards as threats. Then there are the big ones: committing incest, sexual touching or kissing, sexualizing children's behavior, or physically harming, punching, hitting, kicking, pushing, twisting arms, choking, or severe neglect. Although intimate partner violence can happen even with people who weren't abused as children, it usually is connected. We learn roles and how to love from the family that we come from and the ideas that were set before us. So a lot of these things that were instilled in our childhood can show up again in later relationships, whether that's as the abuser or as the victim. Intimate partner abuse is between two people who are in a romantic or sexual relationship. Isolation is a huge power and control tactic, and that's why this time in particular during quarantine and social isolation is very dangerous for people in abusive relationships. What using isolation can look like is controlling what you do, who you see, or who you talk to, limiting outside activities, making you account for your whereabouts, saying no one will believe you, not letting you go anywhere alone. It can also look like emotional abuse, making you feel bad about yourself, calling you names, playing mind games, making you feel guilty, humiliating you, questioning your identity, reinforcing internalized phobias and isms, or refusing to commit to a relationship. Using intimidation looks like making you afraid by using looks, gestures, actions, smashing things, abusing pets, displaying weapons, using looks, actions, and gestures to reinforce control, standing in front of the door or an exit. Another form of control is using coercion or threats, making and or carrying out those threats to do something to you, threatening to harm themselves or you, threatening to leave or commit suicide, driving recklessly to frighten you, threatening others who are important to you, and stalking. Economic abuse is also a tactic, preventing you from getting or keeping a job, making you ask for money, interfering with your work or education, taking your credit card, not working and requiring you to provide support, or keeping your name off of joint assets. It can look like using privilege, treating you as a servant, making all the big decisions without you, being the one to define the roles or duties in the relationship, using privilege or ability to discredit you, cut off access or resources, or use the system against you, knowing what's best for you. It can also look like using children, making you feel guilty about the children, using children to relay messages, threatening to take the children, telling you that you have no parental rights, threatening to tell your ex or the authorities to take your children. Another form of control is denying, minimizing, or blaming. Making light of abuse, saying it didn't happen, shifting responsibility, saying it's your fault or you deserved it, accusing you of mutual abuse, saying it's just fighting, it's not abuse, accusing you of making them abuse you. This is also called gaslighting. Then once again, we also have the more severe forms of violence, of sexual violence and physical violence that we talked about. In LGBTQ relationships, we have the same general tactics, but there are also additional pressures of homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia, not respecting pronouns, making fun of you for the way that you look or the way that you love. It can also look like forced outing and telling or threatening to tell people that you have not disclosed your sexual orientation or gender identity to. Personal violence doesn't exist within a bubble. Inside of the abusive relationship, the personal abusive relationship, there's also interference with institutions of education, medicine, religion, work, government, social services, the police, the media, the courts. All of these can be weaponized against a victim. In addition, cultural ties, language, tradition, the things you love, art, norms, these can all be weaponized against a victim as well. The easiest way to get out of a violent relationship is to stop it before it starts by knowing the warning signs. Moving too fast, such as saying I love you or proposing after a very short amount of time, love bombing, giving you so much love and attention that it's unwarranted too early, jealousy, wondering where you're going, who you're going to be with, isolating you from your friends and family, accusing you of cheating, telling you how to dress, and inconsistency. Others include not respecting your boundaries and forcing you to answer right away and getting upset if you don't answer them immediately. If you need help, call up the New York City 24-hour hotline, 1-800-621-HOPE, or the New York City Gay and Lesbian Anti-Violence Project, 212-714-1141. Remember, you are not alone. There is help available even during the pandemic. There's nothing to be ashamed of, even if you're not ready to leave yet.
Here at The Door, we miss you, and we hope that you're staying safe and healthy during this trying time.